Right, welcome Cub Scout leaders. This is an explanation of the fun Cub Scout meeting number 2 called It's Showtime. So I'm going to walk you through the elements of that meeting. And one thing you'll notice is there's some slides that are gold background. Those are just for you. You'll take those out when you talk to your Cub Scouts. Right, so there was a fun Cub Scout meeting number 1. Hopefully you've used. If not, you might want to look at it because there's some skills in there that I don't repeat in this meeting, like the how to use chat and the fist for 5 voting. So anyway, you can take a look there. And this meeting covers some other stuff, some new things. One's called Wheel of Names, which is a super fun gadget to use, and using annotation or the electronic whiteboard to get your cubs involved. There's a brainstorming, so we have that embedded timer again. So when you do open the PowerPoint, you'll get a notice that says, outside content. That's what that outside content is. So go ahead and accept that. But this is really about teamwork and leadership and planning a show, because scouting is about being able to get up in front of an audience, right? So every adventure has some aspect of a show or a game in it. So this is a list of those adventures that you can look at depending on the rank that pretty much you can accomplish in this meeting format. Now, don't worry about taking notes. Any of this information is not only in the leader resource sheet, it is also embedded in the notes of the slides. So that's really handy for you. Right. So in this meeting idea, this Showtime meeting, there's a couple things you can do. You can just have the Cubs prepare a show for their den. That's all. So that would be a 2 meeting thing. This meeting, you do the first one, and then the second meeting, you do a den show. You could make it wider, though. You could invite family. You could invite friends. You could make it a recruiting option. So the Cubs are going to get a chance to vote on that during this meeting, and then decide. So if they are going to give a show for others, there probably would be 3 meetings. One would be this meeting, and second would be rehearsal, and then the third would be giving the show. Right, this is the outline of the meeting. So you can see it all at once. We're going to do use the name of wheel to do food questions because that is in one of the adventures. So before the meeting starts, you need to do some things. You're going to need to open this Wheel of Names application, which I am going to show you. Make sure you test whatever you're going to use with another person. I do have a mystery person on listening along who's going to help when we get to the annotation stuff. Do any modifications to the PowerPoint that you need to do. And it's always easier in this delivering this meeting if when you share your screen for Zoom, you share not just PowerPoint, but you share your whole screen so you can go back and forth between the Wheel of Names and the PowerPoint. But to do that, you need to go into your PowerPoint and change the view to PowerPoint in only a browser window. If you haven't done that before, again, I'm going to put it in the leader sheet, but that's just all set up to get ready for this meeting. Right, so this is the first slide that Cub Scouts will see. It's Showtime, woohoo, and you can modify it for your Packer Den. And really, that's what you're going to say. We're really going to have some fun and do some planning of a show. Then it's a Cub Scout meeting. Start out with the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever opening you want to have, but the Pledge of Allegiance is pretty easy. And you can remind Cub Scouts to mute before they all start that Pledge of Allegiance. Otherwise, you get that stereo effect going. And have them practice chat. So that's working. You might use that during this meeting for ideas and input. So that's something to go over. All right, this is the slide the Cubs are going to see on the Wheel of Names. And you're going to explain that you're kind of do a fun discussion about food. And then you're going to move over to the wheel. And really, they won't need a lot of explanation about this. But I did put a slide in here for you that gives you more explanation. And you'll understand as soon as you see the wheel what we're talking about. But really, you're going to put there's food things on this wheel. You spin the wheel, and then you ask the Cub Scout the related question and get some conversation going. So let me go over to the Wheel of Names here. Here we go. Here it is. So when you first pull up this Wheel of Names, which is a free application, very fun. It is, you'll see in this box here, names, because that's kind of the name of the application. So you can, put people's names in it and spin for taking turns or whatever. But in this way, I put different ideas around food: favorite veggie, weird fruit, best scout snack. So you spin this wheel like that, and it's going to land on something. Best fruit. All right, so I'm going to go and ask scouts, my first scout in line, what they think the best fruit in the whole world is, right? And they can say why. You can have more discussion about that if you want. And then if you don't want that one to come up again because you only want unique questions, you can remove it off the list, right? And then you spin again and you ask the next scout the next question. So it's really fun. What would be a good scout snack right on a hike, or which is healthy food question, which of course is wonderful. And one of the reasons I think it's really great to talk for Cub Scouts to talk about food and what each other likes is remember later on they're going to be planning campouts with each other, and so cooking. So that's pretty important for them to get. So that's the Wheel of Names application, and that's new. And you can see there's a lot of things you could do with that. Right, this next thing we're going to move to is the electronic whiteboard games. And so this is an annotation feature or electronic whiteboard. If your scouts haven't used one before, you're going to need to teach them how. There are two ways to do this. Now, whenever you're teaching scouts something new, let them play and fool around before you move to something more purposeful or task driven. So that's exactly what we're going to do first. I'm going to turn on the annotate feature, which you might be able to see right up here. Barely actually. I'm going to move this down. There we go. Now you should be able to see it. Here's the annotation feature. I turn it on here, and now I can annotate. But for you to annotate, you out there, my mystery scouter, they have to go to the top of the board and pick out more options or view options and then annotate. So you're going to have to show your Cub Scouts where that command is at the top of the board. But once you do that, everybody can write on this board. All right, so I'm going to go to the person that's on the other side, mystery scouter. Can you scribble on the board for me? There we go. All right. And then as the leader, you clear the drawings like that. And then to move between slides, you do have to turn off the annotation feature. Move to the next slide like this. And now I'm going to annotate again because this is kind of the fun play aspect of the annotation board. So I'm going to ask all the Cub Scout leaders to circle the owl, circle a part of the owl. So circle the eyes of the owl, for example. So hopefully they can see the owl. And there we go. And then do whatever, draw a bow tie on the owl if you wanted. Here we go. Not a very good bow tie dryer, but just let them just scribble and play around. Have them find the stamp feature. Have everybody put a stamp on the thing so they can learn how to do that. Ask all your scouts maybe to put a text, type their name. Uh, so this is just learning how to use the annotate feature before you go to the dots and boxes game. And it's also a wonderful way to teach courtesy because this is a fun thing, and sometimes your scouts are going to want to annotate when you don't want them to annotate. So you need to remind them to say, okay, everybody stop annotating. I'm going to clear those drawings. Don't write anything else right now. We're going to go to the next slide. All right, and the next slide is pretty fun. I hope you've played this game before. It's called dots and boxes. And here's the slide you can show your Cub Scouts in case they haven't played the game before. And it is also animated. So what dots and boxes is that you draw horizontal and vertical lines. You take turns, either back and forth with two people, or you can have several people play this. Oh yes, the Mystery Scout's already playing. Oh right, and I have some more annotated there. I'm going to catch up with you, Mystery Scout. And then so you go back and forth, and then eventually what's going to happen is that somebody gets enough lines to to form a complete box like that. I overdid that one. And then you put your initials in it. So you explain the game to your scouts, and then you go to the next slide. And that's the slide just for you leaders to remind you how to play this. And this is actually the game board slide. All right. So again, you decide how you want to play. But if it's going to be me as the leader against all the scouts, then they have to decide where they're going to move. So they're going to have to talk about that. And they can do that by using the A, B, C, D, E, F, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, or you can just have them all play, take turns, and see how it goes. This is just a fun thing. You can make it more or less teamwork oriented, uh, depending on how you do the teams. So thank you very much. And again, when somebody gets a complete box, finishes the box, you can finish it up. There we go. They put their initials in it. And the object of the game is to get the most boxes, and that's who wins. All right, so I am going to clear the board there and move on to the next slide here. All right, so now we played some games. Now it's time to really do our show time, which is a main part of this meeting. And there's an embedded timer. The important thing about brainstorming is before everybody starts talking, you want people to do their individual thinking. So you're going to say, look, we're going to plan a show, and we're going to have to decide if we just want our den, if we want our family, what we want, what ideas that we have. But before we talk about it, I want you to take 3 minutes, Cub Scouts, and write down your own ideas. Who should come? What do you want to do? What would be really fun? And again, the sky's the limit. If this is a virtual meeting, they could show their cool Lego things or collection or juggle skills or whatever. There's a lot of options that they can do. So really kind of encourage them to think broadly. They could bring one of their pets on the Showtime call. So just whatever they want to do. So then you start the timer and you stop talking and they should be writing. That's what should be happening. Right? So that's going to go. And then you're going to go to uh, the next slide here and take some votes. So this is decision making. They've got some ideas, and the first thing you want to nail down here is their who are you going to do this show for? All right, so this fist of five, we introduced it at the other meeting, but 0 in this context means no. 5 means yes. So you can have, see what your Cub Scouts want to do. So the first question you ask is, do you want to have the show just for the den? So that's the question. And you ask them to give their vote, you figure out what that is. And then, okay, maybe it's unanimous at that point, maybe it's not. Do we want to invite other scouts? Yes or no? Do we want to invite friends? Yes or no? Do we want to invite family? So there's different ways you can consider. And then based on your sort of the summary vote, how it comes out, you can decide what you're going to do. And lastly, what you're going to do is plan the show, right? And so you got to figure the date, time, and if you're going to invite anybody, how you're going to do that. And this is a good time in PowerPoint to get off of the uh, slideshow mode and go over to edit mode, right? So you hit that escape key and you hit edit mode so you can type. So if somebody says, they have a skit they want to, a skit on goldfish, and you decide that's gonna be in the show, and Sam wants to do that. It's gonna take about 3 minutes. Whatever, you can start having them, build. Can tell goldfish, right? But you're gonna, build what they're gonna do so everybody can see, right, the show. And you may need to move things around, but you'll at least have an order, of operations. So that's what that is. That for that slide. And then of course then you start getting ready to finish up the meeting. So that leader minute's always important. You can customize text there to however you want to close the meeting up. It's always great to get feedback, right? Did they have a good time with this meeting? That's a 5. You can see the little faces indicate all the way down to 1. It wasn't that fun, but getting them to evaluate, reflect back on things that they do in scouting is part of leadership and part of the scouting experience. Now there is something extra in here. So there is a that's all folks slide for you, so you can then reiterate when your next meeting is, and very clearly tell them what you need to do. If you don't want to use the wheel of names, I added another way that you can do annotation board with food, right? So you bring up a picture and then have scouts again play around on the food board and then have them say, circle their favorite food or X out food that they don't like. So again, it's just another fun way to talk about food have them all be using the annotation electronic whiteboard at the same time. So that's it. I'm Betsy Eubanks with Screen Boosted Scouting. You have a leader resource sheet in the SBS site and this PowerPoint to download and use however you want. So that's great. Thanks for watching, and go out there and do some scouting.